there's a section of the book called The Sad New Normal, because this is what it is. And, the data that you read and the emotional way you thought about this is why we wrote the book. We want to, really pound this home that these aren't just numbers. These are real people taken out in the prime of their lives. And if you think sudden athletic deaths are tragic, these are the fittest amongst us. Can you imagine what's happening to the less fit? And the numbers bear that out. So this is 9/11 on steroids.
I have to say that when I read this book, Cause Unknown, I started reading through it with some curiosity. I'd listened to an interview you did with Mercola, and it sounded really compelling. And one of the things I appreciated was, my father was a commodities trader, grew up in the Paul Jones, Bruce Kovner era, Commodities Corp. And so I understood the terminology that you use thinking, in finance, which is your background, being a fund manager at Blackrock, the largest financial institution in the world that's private, at least, second only to US and China, I believe, in assets managed, basically. But the way that you thought about it was the same way that my dad would analyze whether, soybeans were going to, have a strong season, or whether gold prices were going to sell off or be strong or bullish in the future. And it was a very analytical and dispassionate way that you approached all of the data. And so I deeply appreciated that. And that was kind of the mindset that I went into the book. And I want to, of course, let you talk about that mindset, but also just to share that I started reading this book on a nice sunny day out at my farm in Lockhart. And I just broke down and just started bawling. And I get emotional thinking about it because it felt like I was looking at a slow and disconnected version of 9/11. All of the faces that you have in here of the people who've died, and you have QR codes to every one of the articles, and you start to just see face after face after face of people who are full of life and who are no longer here, and then start to look at the statistics of a very plausible explanation of why that might be. And it's just absolutely fucking, it's devastating, man. It's really devastating. And, we won't be able to hold the emotional gravity of this, but I just want to establish, yeah, we're going to be talking a lot of numbers and science, but one of the most powerful things about this is these are real people. These are not just numbers. Excess deaths are not some statistic alone. Every single point on that statistic is someone with a life and a history and a mother and a father and children and friends and a song that they could sing that's only theirs to sing for the world. It's fucking heavy, man. It's really heavy.
I absolutely agree with you. And as a numbers guy, that's what we did in the book. We wanted to establish these are big numbers, but they have real human consequences and real sad tragedies. And the biggest thing that really upsets me is my data suggests there was a mix shift from old to young in 21 and 22. And the tragic deaths, and we start with the athletic deaths, the sudden athletic deaths, because these are the most elite, fittest amongst us. And I wanted to show that what's going on is true. First, is it true? And forget about why. Just, suspend that. But, by showing all these individual stories from local newspapers, they don't really ever make it to the national level. We wanted to put a human face on it and really connect people with what's going on, that this just isn't some statistical anomaly caused by climate change, caused by XYZ. These are real young people dying in the prime of their life on the field. And one of the most compelling studies that was done was the Lausanne study, and it spanned 38 years, and it cataloged 1,100 sudden athletic deaths over 38 years. That's about 29 per year globally. And, I just want to establish for people who may not believe what, I believe or you believe, but there's something new going on, and it's undeniable and it's true. We can't have a month. We don't have a month now. We'd be lucky to have a month with 29 sudden athletic deaths since 2021. There are months with 90, 100, 150. And we catalog in the book 550. A bunch of the stories are featured up front, but then there's a compendium with all the stories. And I want people to understand that this is true. It's happening. Now, you may not agree with what my thesis of the case is, but the health authorities of the globe and this country in particular don't seem to care, and they don't want to talk about it. And we've created a new term called sudden adult death syndrome that just kind of mysteriously came into being in 2021. And all that is, it's a term. It doesn't explain anything. It's just a new term. It's a term used to just kind of whitewash this and make it normal. And there's a section of the book called The Sad New Normal, because this is what it is. And the data that you read and the emotional way you thought about this is why we wrote the book. We want to really pound this home that these aren't just numbers; these are real people taken out in the prime of their lives. And if you think sudden athletic deaths are tragic, these are the fittest amongst us. Can you imagine what's happening to the less fit? And the numbers bear that out. So this is 9/11 on steroids.